You don't belong here. This is a place for real executives, not some token diversity quota. The low, gravelly voice, laced with mockery, rang out just before Grant Lawson's broad hand slammed into Malcolm Carter's chest. The sound echoed through the marble lobby of the Kingsley Meridian Hotel, sharp and cold as a blade. The massive crystal chandelier above trembled slightly, scattering light into thousands of shimmering fragments, though not a single one seemed to fall on Malcolm. He stepped back half a pace, not out of fear, but out of surprise. The look in the eyes of a 46-year-old man who had signed contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars, yet still had to hear those words, inside a building in which he held a controlling stake. Around them, grey suits, cashmere coats, and silk ties of Chicago's elite businessmen formed a half-moon. Some sipped champagne, others raised their phones, eyes bright as if they had stumbled upon first-class drama. A few pressed their lips together to stifle a laugh, while others didn't bother to hide it. Malcolm adjusted his navy tie, the motion deliberate, as if brushing away an invisible layer of dust from his dignity. His Patek Philippe glinted as he pulled his sleeve back slightly, the cold gleam of metal catching Grant's eye. Grant folded his arms, planting himself in front of the Platinum Lounge entrance, the most tightly guarded section of the networking gala. "Please use the regular entrance, sir. This area is for verified guests only." Malcolm didn't smile. He looked straight ahead. "Verified?" His voice was low and smooth, but there was something in it, something that made a few nearby swallow hard. Above them, the digital board blinked. VIP networking session, 47 minutes remaining. The room glowed in luxurious gold light, but in the middle of the crowd, a shadow seemed to be spreading, centered on Malcolm. Laura Bennett, the event manager, appeared. Her blonde hair was pinned high, her steps precise, as if walking a runway. She swept her gaze over Malcolm from head to toe, the kind of glance from someone used to evaluating a person's worth in half a second. "There must be some mix-up," Laura said, lips curling into a cool smile. "The regular lounge also offers great networking opportunities." Malcolm pulled an invitation from his breast pocket. Black background, gold embossed lettering, Platinum Access, printed clearly. Under the chandelier's light, it almost sparkled. Laura glanced at it, the way one might glance at a supermarket receipt. "Invitations sometimes get sent by mistake. Happens all the time in event companies," she said, tone flat. Across the room, Sophia Morales, a lifestyle influencer, had her phone up, whispering to her 50,000 followers, "Do you see this? They're refusing to let a black man into the VIP area, even though he has a ticket. Right here, right now, at the Kingsley Meridian." Comments began flooding in like rain. The hashtag #VIP appeared for the first time on her live stream. Grant stepped closer, his bulk forming a wall across the entrance. "Sir, please step aside. This is for true VIPs only." 3 silver-haired men in bespoke suits standing nearby chuckled. "Finally, someone's checking properly," one said with smug delight. Another nodded. "Standards have to be maintained, or anyone would try to get in." Laura gestured toward the long, winding line outside, over 200 people standing in Chicago's biting October wind. "The regular line moves pretty quickly," she lied smoothly. Malcolm remained still. His espresso, brown Italian leather briefcase, rested lightly on the marble table beside the entrance. A discreet Carter Global Media logo was engraved in the corner, too subtle for the uninformed to notice. A first-class luggage tag still hung from the handle, printed with the code for a private jet flight, PJ7749. Sophia shifted her camera, focusing on Malcolm. Viewers jumped from 52,000 to 58,000. This is discrimination. Clear as day. Look at that suit, that briefcase, and they still act like he's not qualified to be here. A second, then a third security guard approached. Now 3 large men stood as a barricade in front of Malcolm. The air felt thicker. "Sir, please join the regular line or leave the hotel," Grant said, lowering his voice but loud enough for the crowd to hear. Malcolm gave a small nod, his gaze never leaving the faces before him. "Of course. I would never want to break your rules." He picked up his briefcase and straightened to his full 6'1" height, his shadow stretching long over the marble floor. "Ladies and gentlemen, I will remember tonight." The digital board blinked again. VIP networking. 38 minutes remaining. Behind them, Patrick Collins, the hotel's general manager, took an urgent call. "Patrick, get to the lobby now. There's a problem at the VIP entrance." He didn't like problems, but quickened his pace. The sight that met him made his stomach sink. A crowd, dozens of cameras pointed at a guest being blocked from entry. Sophia's live stream had hit 75,000 viewers. The hashtag #VIPGatekeeper reached 10,000 posts in just 20 minutes. Laura was quick to explain to Patrick. "This gentleman insists he has a VIP ticket. We're just protecting the standard." Patrick eyed Malcolm, the tailored suit, genuine watch, handcrafted briefcase. But he also knew appearances could deceive. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, sir. But could you provide additional verification? A business card, a company ID?" A voice from the crowd cut in. "Probably stolen paperwork." Laughter rippled. Malcolm set his briefcase on the marble table. Patrick, who should have stopped there, said the words he would regret for months. "Sir, please open your briefcase so I can check." 50 pairs of eyes locked on him. Malcolm opened the clasps. Legal documents, contracts, a tablet, a leather portfolio, slid out onto the cold marble. A woman gasped. "Oh my God, they're really making him go through his bag right here." Sophia zoomed in, her voice trembling with anger. "Chicago, 2024. A corporate event, and they're searching a black man's personal belongings in the middle of the lobby." The silver-haired man stepped forward, eyes glassy from alcohol. "What's in that portfolio? Let's see real proof." Patrick hesitated, but the crowd's eyes pressed in. "If you don't mind, sir." Malcolm opened the portfolio. Contracts, letters of agreement, legal documents, all bearing names no one in the crowd recognized. Not Apple, not Google. Grant smirked. "Never heard of any of these companies. Anyone can print a nice-looking title page." The atmosphere shifted into open mockery. What does he actually do? Probably works at Best Buy. Laughter spread. Malcolm stayed silent. He picked up his phone, opened his contacts, and tapped a name. His voice dropped low, but each word cut through the air like a blade. "It's me. It's time. Activate Protocol 7. The first twist had just been set in motion. No one here knew what Protocol 7 meant. But Malcolm, and a select few others, knew the game had only just begun. The phone call lasted only 15 seconds, but its effect began to spread like an oil slick across still water. Grant Lawson and Laura Bennett exchanged a brief glance, their brows knitting. Protocol 7 sounded like a security code, but the way Malcolm Carter had said it, low, slow, and certain, felt less like a personal call and more like the activation of an operation. Patrick Collins cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Mr. Carter, I'm sure we can resolve this quickly if you—" Malcolm cut him off, his voice velvet, wrapped steel. "I understand completely. Integrity is everything in business." He pulled out his phone and tapped the camera. Click. A photo of Grant's name badge. Click. A shot of Laura's hotel ID pinned to her lapel. Click. The flushed face of the silver-haired man, still standing with arms folded, as if watching a stage play. Each press of the shutter landed like a gavel strike, carving their names into an evidence file. The crowd fell a notch quieter. The digital board overhead updated. 42 minutes remaining. Keynote speaker arriving in 30 minutes. Across the lobby, Sofia Morales received a push notification from TikTok. Her video was now trending. Views spiked. 62,000, 68,000, 75,000. Comments rolled so fast they blurred. Some shouted, "Call the police!" Others shot back, "Sue the hotel!" Mixed in were colder remarks. Finally, someone holding the line on standards. Grant stepped forward half a pace, his broad shoulders nearly blocking the entire entrance. "Sir, I must ask you to leave this area. You're obstructing real VIP guests." From the VIP line came a small laugh. "That's right. Keep the standards." The voice belonged to Richard Blackwood, CEO of a pharmaceutical giant, loud enough for multiple phones to swing toward him. Beside him, Sandra Price, founder of a tech startup, nodded approvingly, as if this were a live lesson in customer segmentation. Patrick forced a thin smile, lowering his voice to Malcolm. "If you'd be willing to join the regular line, I'll personally make sure you get in quickly." Malcolm locked eyes with him. "Mr. Collins, I respect your position. Running a luxury hotel in Chicago is no small feat, but fairness is a far larger one." He swiped open a stock app on his phone. CHG Media Group, 47,000, 80 tools. Meridian Hospitality Corp, $23.16. Numbers meaningless to most of the crowd, but the faint curl at Malcolm's lips suggested otherwise. Laura Bennett frowned, not understanding but sensing something dangerous. "Sir, please decide," Laura pressed, her tone hard. "Either join the regular line or leave the hotel." 3 security guards, Grant, a man named Derek Malone, and another colleague closed the circle tighter. The signal was clear. Comply or be removed. Sophia glanced at her phone, eyes widening. Major accounts on Twitter, Instagram, even a few celebrities had begun to retweet her video. This was no longer a minor incident in the lobby. It was becoming national news. A quiet sigh drifted from the far end of the lobby. An elderly man with snow-white hair, dressed in a perfectly tailored 3-piece suit and leaning on a cane, stepped through the crowd. What's all this noise? Some of us are trying to work here." The remark, seemingly harmless, poured fuel on an already blazing fire. Phones rose again, lenses zooming in to capture every flicker of disdain. The hotel's own security cameras, intended to protect property and guests, were now recording every second, every glance. Footage that would later become a mandatory case study in corporate bias training. Malcolm looked down at his phone. A new message flashed. "Protocol 7 activated. Ready when you are." He lifted his gaze, sweeping it over Patrick, Grant, Laura, and the crowd filming him. His voice dropped, deep and steady, carrying across the lobby. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to clarify a few things." The digital board updated again. 22 minutes remaining. Keynote begins. Malcolm tapped his phone twice. Patrick's phone buzzed violently. Buzz, buzz, ring, buzz. The caller ID read, "Edward Hawthorne, Chairman." Patrick's face drained of color. I need to take this." Malcolm raised an eyebrow. "Put it on speaker. I think everyone should hear." The lobby fell silent. Only the hum of the air conditioner and the muffled sounds of street traffic seeped in. Patrick answered. "Edward, Patrick, what the hell is going on over there? I'm getting calls from the board, from investors, even my wife, about a live stream from your hotel." The crowd shifted uneasily. Many lowered their phones, sensing the tide was turning. "It's just a minor situation at the VIP entrance we're handling." "Handling?" Edward's voice slammed like a gavel on hardwood. "Patrick, do you know who Malcolm Carter is?" Patrick stammered. "He said he's some kind of executive, but no said about it. He's the CEO of Carter Global Media. He owns 31% of this hotel chain. He controls our largest corporate partner. And from what I can see, he's being humiliated in our lobby in front of 85,000 people watching live." A ripple of whispers swept through the crowd. Laura took a step back. Grant's expression hardened with unease. The silver-haired man glanced down at his shoes. Sophia whispered into her live stream, "Oh my God, here's the plot twist." Edward pressed on, his voice edged in steel. "Malcolm is tonight's keynote speaker, and his company holds a $12 million annual contract with this chain. One press release from him could knock our stock price into the ground." Patrick nearly dropped the phone, sweat gathering at his temples. Malcolm stepped forward, his tone calm but loud enough for all to hear. "Edward, I hear you clearly, and I believe we'll address this matter professionally." He turned toward the crowd, those who had mocked and filmed him minutes earlier. Now they were slipping their phones away, deleting videos, trying to blend back into anonymity. Grant edged backward, seeking cover. Laura pretended to check her clipboard. Derek Malone had vanished entirely. Sophia panned her camera, her voice quickening. "You're watching history. The man they refused entry to the VIP area is the hotel's largest shareholder and the keynote speaker. This is the turning point." Edward's voice remained on speaker. "Malcolm, I'm on my way. 20 minutes. Whatever you need, just say the word." Patrick scrambled to recover. "Mr. Carter, we didn't know." Malcolm held up a hand, silencing him. The small gesture froze 50 people in place. "There's no such thing as didn't know. Your staff acted exactly as they were trained. They saw a black man at the VIP door and assumed he didn't belong." The words hit the room like lead. A few faces tilted downward. Malcolm glanced at his Patek Philippe, the same watch Grant had once thought was fake. 18 minutes until my speech. I suggest we use that time wisely. Light from the chandelier traced a thin halo across his shoulders. Malcolm's face held no fear, only the certainty of a man in absolute control. And with those words, he had set in motion a chess match where every move from here would redefine the culture of an entire corporation. The murmurs in the lobby slowly faded. Every eye was locked on Malcolm Carter, the man who, just minutes ago, had been dismissed and disrespected, now standing in the highest position of power and authority in the room. He placed his espresso-colored leather briefcase on the marble table. Without rushing, he unlocked it and drew out a tablet encased in carbon fiber. The screen lit up, revealing a spreadsheet with figures precise to the decimal. "Mr. Collins," Malcolm began, his voice calm yet carrying the cadence of an attorney reading out contractual terms. "Tonight is not just an incident. It is an organizational culture audit, and this hotel has just failed outright." His gaze swept across Grant, Laura, and the empty space where Derek Malone had already disappeared. "And when failure happens, I do not seek apologies. I seek structural change." His hand slid across the screen. Figures expanded on the display. Carter Global Media, 18. Hotel partners across 12 states. Total contract value, $47 million per year. Meridian Hotels, $12 million per year. The single largest partner. A low ripple of whispers moved through the crowd. Several VIP guests were beginning to grasp just how devastating these numbers could be. In the current contract between Carter Global Media and Meridian Hotels, Malcolm continued, Section 12.4 states clearly, any act of discrimination based on race, gender, religion, or national origin toward a client shall constitute a breach of contract and grounds for immediate termination. Patrick Collins swallowed hard. He knew that clause existed, but never imagined it would be triggered right here in the hotel lobby. Malcolm turned his eyes on Laura. "Ms. Bennett, your intentions are irrelevant when measuring impact. The Illinois Civil Rights Act does not require proof of malice. It only requires evidence of unequal treatment." Laura opened her mouth to respond, but Malcolm raised a single finger. "I will now lay out 8 requirements. These are not proposals. They are not suggestions. These are non-negotiable conditions for the contract to remain in effect. 1. Immediate termination of all personnel directly involved in tonight's incident. Grant Lawson, Laura Bennett, and Derek Malone. Patrick pulled out his phone and began texting HR. "Done," he replied, his voice dry. 2. Mandatory bias training for all employees, management, and executive leadership within 60 days, with quarterly updates. Patrick nodded. "We'll begin implementation this week." 3. Establish a third-party monitored bias incident reporting system, allowing anonymous submissions, independent investigation, and quarterly public disclosures. Some VIP guests raised their eyebrows. Public disclosure meant no sweeping dirt under the rug. 4. Revise all security and guest reception protocols to eliminate subjective assessments based on appearance, skin color, or attire. Apply objective, transparent criteria for all guests. Laura muttered, You can't eliminate flexibility entirely. Malcolm cut her off. Ms. Bennett, you've just been terminated. Your opinion is no longer relevant. 5. Create a diversity advisory board with real authority to review policies, investigate complaints, and implement reforms. Its members shall include community leaders, civil rights attorneys, and industry experts. 6. Publish monthly diversity accountability reports, including staffing data, guest complaint statistics, disciplinary actions, and training completion rates. 7. Commit $100,000 annually in each key market to support civil rights organizations and anti-bias initiatives. 8. Integrate diversity and inclusion metrics into executive performance reviews, including yours, Mr. Collins. Failure to meet targets will result in termination. The air was so still, the hum of the ventilation system was audible. Malcolm continued, If any of these requirements are not met, I will invoke my right to terminate the contract. The estimated direct loss to Meridian Hotels would be fend of annual revenue, approximately $63 million in market capitalization. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. This was no longer an ethics lecture. This was a financial ultimatum. Patrick's hands trembled, but he nodded. We agree. All of it. Malcolm tilted his head slightly. I want confirmation from Chairman Edward Hawthorne right now. Patrick dialed. Edward's voice came over the speaker. Agreed in full. The legal team is initiating termination procedures for the personnel involved. PR is preparing a press release. Sophia Morales all but whispered into her camera. This is how real power operates. No shouting, no brawling. Just data, law, and money. The digital board above updated. 7 minutes remaining. Keynote: Unconscious bias in corporate leadership. Malcolm closed his tablet and locked the leather case. He looked directly at Patrick. Mr. Collins, initiate the process now. Those 3 individuals must be out of the building before I take the stage. Patrick turned away, making urgent calls. Within 3 minutes, Grant Lawson, Laura Bennett, and Derek Malone were escorted from the lobby. Not with a scene, but with just enough visibility for everyone to witness. Malcolm addressed the crowd. You have just been witness to a live lesson in strategic power, and in just 15 minutes, we will break it down together to turn it into lasting change. The murmurs this time carried no mockery, only a mix of admiration and unease. Malcolm glanced toward Sophia and gave a small nod. She understood. Keep the live stream rolling. From here on, everything would enter the public record. The atmosphere in the lobby felt like the moment before a judge's gavel came down. Everyone knew a verdict was coming, but no one dared to predict its exact form. Malcolm Carter stood beneath the 7-meter crystal chandelier, its light spilling across his shoulders, making his midnight navy suit and Patek Philippe watch glint with a cold silver sheen. He turned, not looking solely at Patrick Collins or the group of employees who had just been terminated, but at the entire lobby, as if speaking to the 100,000 viewers watching Sophia Morales' live stream. Tonight, you are not just witnessing an incident of discrimination. You are participating in a live case study, one where the consequence is not just an apology, but systemic change. The steady clicking of keys echoed from the corner. A reporter from the Chicago Daily Ledger had just arrived, connecting a laptop to the hotel's Wi-Fi, ready to send out breaking news. Sophia panned her phone in tight on Malcolm's tablet screen. "You see this?" she told her online audience. "This isn't a PowerPoint slide. This is a contract, a clause, real numbers." Malcolm gestured toward the digital board mounted on the wall. 5 minutes until the keynote. Title: Unconscious Bias in Corporate Leadership. Malcolm Carter. "We won't be heading into the ballroom just yet," Malcolm said, his voice calm but clear. "Because tonight's ballroom is right here." He reopened his stock market app. The ticker for Meridian Hospitality Corp. flashed. "In just the past 27 minutes, Malcolm explained, Meridian's stock price has dropped 8%, not because of market volatility, but because investor confidence is slipping. He turned to the group of VIP guests who had mocked him earlier. "You call that maintaining standards. The market calls it destroying shareholder value." A faint scoff came from Richard Blackwood, the pharmaceutical CEO, who had been called out by name. Malcolm didn't let it pass. "Tom Blackwood, I'll send you the July 2023 Harvard Business Review report, analyzing an average 3.4% market cap loss when a brand faces a public discrimination scandal. You'll see it's not just ethics, it's profitability." Patrick tried to step in. "Mr. Carter, we truly want to work together. Perhaps we could speak privately." Malcolm cut him off, not raising his voice. "No, Mr. Collins. Privacy created this problem. Transparency will solve it." He signaled Sophia to bring the camera closer. "Everything we discuss here will be public. This is not only about punishment, but about setting a precedent. When a system fails, it must be repaired in front of the people it harmed." First surprise, Malcolm made a call, but not to Edward Hawthorne. The name on the screen: Dr. Angela Williams, president of the Chicago Civil Rights Association. "Angela," Malcolm said as soon as she answered, "I'm in the lobby of the Meridian Hotel, and a discrimination incident just occurred. I need your advisory council to have a seat on their new diversity board, and I want this announced tonight." On the other end, Angela's voice came through loud enough for Sophia's mic to catch. "Consider it done. We'll be there, and we'll make sure this isn't just a promise on paper." Second surprise, Malcolm connected his tablet to the hotel's large LED display behind the reception desk. The screen lit up with the Meridian Accountability Dashboard, a draft designed by Carter Global Media. "You will update this dashboard monthly," he said. "Transparent metrics, visible to everyone. Incident reports, disciplinary actions, training progress, guest satisfaction ratings by demographic group." A hotel IT staffer standing nearby turned pale. He understood their current system couldn't handle such demands without a complete overhaul. Third surprise, Malcolm turned to the crowd. "I want the people who spoke up against this behavior tonight to come forward." A few hesitated. Then a middle-aged white woman in a grey suit stepped forward. I told Laura he should be let straight through. I was ignored." Malcolm nodded, handing her the wireless mic from the ballroom. "Please say that again, so hundreds of thousands out there can hear you." She drew a deep breath and looked straight into Sophia's camera. "I saw it, and I know this was discrimination, and I support every change Mr. Carter has just proposed." The chain reaction was immediate. 3, then 4 more people stepped forward, confirming they had witnessed and objected, but were disregarded. In civil rights law, this is called direct witness testimony, the kind that would make any Meridian attorney wince if the matter went to court. Patrick was now nearly powerless. He turned to Malcolm. "Mr. Carter, I'll need Carter Global Media's assistance to roll out this entire system." Malcolm tilted his head. "You'll have it. But remember, this isn't a favor. This is a new contract term." He tapped his tablet, revealing an addendum already bearing Edward Hawthorne's digital signature in the corner. "We begin right now." The digital board on the wall flashed. 2 minutes. Keynote. Malcolm scanned the lobby one last time. "Remember this moment. The next time you're in a position to decide who is allowed to enter, ask yourself, is that standard protecting the brand or destroying it?" He closed his briefcase and turned toward the ballroom. Sophia followed closely, live stream still rolling. The crowd parted to make way, no one laughing now. As the ballroom doors shut behind Malcolm, Patrick Collins exhaled, knowing this night would be referenced in every strategic meeting the company held for years to come. The Grand Meridian Ballroom glowed under warm golden light. Round tables draped in white linen stood in precise rows, each seating groups of CEOs, board chairs, and investors. On most nights, the air here was thick with power and confidence. But tonight, what lingered was a current of expectation laced with tension. The red velvet curtain drew back. Malcolm Carter stepped onto the stage. He carried no printed speech, only a wireless microphone and his espresso leather briefcase. The initial applause was polite, but when Malcolm neither smiled nor offered the customary "thank you for having me," the sound faded quickly. He began, "Normally, I'd start with a few statistics. But tonight, I bring you a story that happened just outside these doors, less than 15 minutes ago." Murmurs rippled through the room. A few whispered, no doubt having already seen Sophia Morales' live stream. Malcolm paused, glancing at the front row where Patrick Collins sat rigid, backed. "Before I share, I want to ask, how many of you here believe you have no unconscious bias?" A few hands rose. He nodded slightly. "Interesting. Now how many of you think that if a black man in a suit walked into a VIP gala, you would have no doubt he belonged there?" Not a single hand lifted. A heavy silence settled. "That," Malcolm said, enunciating each word, "is the power of unconscious bias. It doesn't need malice. It only needs an assumption. And that assumption is enough to cause damage." He opened his briefcase, pulled out a tablet, and connected it to the massive screen behind him. The first image appeared, Grant Lawson blocking him at the VIP entrance. "This frame, 7:03 p.m., Malcolm narrated. "On paper, this is a security officer doing his job. But if we examine the protocol, it does not require blocking a guest before checking their invitation. So why did this happen?" The second slide, a photo of Laura Bennett holding the invitation without even glancing at it. Malcolm turned, scanning the ballroom. Section 5.2 of Meridian's Operations Manual states all VIP tickets must be fully scanned or visually inspected. That didn't happen here. A few executives exchanged uneasy looks, realizing Malcolm wasn't just speaking about feelings. He was dissecting procedure like an internal auditor. The third slide, an image of the crowd laughing. "This moment," Malcolm said, "is when your brand lost value. Not because of one person's action, but because of a culture that allowed it." He switched to a data chart, live stream viewers, 102,000, and climbing. #VIP gatekeeper. 128,000 posts in 40 minutes. Meridian's stock price down 0.8% in the time since the incident began. Malcolm faced the audience. If you think this is just bad, let me translate it into a language CEOs understand. A $50 million market cap loss caused by 27 minutes of discrimination. The air seemed to reign from the room. The tapping of pens on tabletops ceased. He recounted the entire event, from being stopped, told to join the regular line, to activating Protocol 7. When he described calling Dr. Angela Williams and inserting the advisory board requirement into the agreement, a few nodded, recognizing live tactical negotiation. Then Malcolm shifted pace. I'm not telling this to shame anyone. I'm telling it to show that preparation is the most powerful weapon in the boardroom and in the hotel lobby. He listed the contract already containing a termination clause for discrimination, strategic equity in both the hotel and local media, an alliance ready to act within minutes. I didn't need to sue. I only needed to activate what I had prepared. The next slide appeared, the 8 requirements he had issued in the lobby. He read each one slowly, explaining its systemic impact. When you lead, cultural change doesn't come from a one-day seminar. It comes from structure that forces accountability. At the 25th minute of the keynote, Malcolm paused. Does anyone here believe what happened was an isolated case, that it won't happen again? A few scattered no's. He nodded. Exactly. And that's why I will monitor the implementation of these terms, the same way I monitor quarterly revenue reports. Near the close, his voice dropped lower, carrying weight. Tonight, I didn't just come here to talk about unconscious bias. I came to prove that it has a cost. And when the cost is high enough, no business will dare ignore it. He stepped down from the stage. No rallying slogan, no triumphant music. Only one final line echoed through the microphone, like an iron period. When dignity meets data, bias pays the price. 10:17 p.m. The Grand Meridian. Ballroom had emptied. VIP guests drifted out, many avoiding Malcolm Carter's gaze as if dodging a mirror that had just reflected the biases they still carried. The hotel lobby had once again become Malcolm's command center. Sophia Morales set her tripod down on the marble floor, camera still rolling. Everyone, the keynote just ended. But Mr. Carter isn't leaving. He's starting the most important part, turning words into real change. Malcolm removed his suit jacket, folded it neatly on a chair, revealing a crisp white shirt with silver cufflinks engraved with the Carter Global Media logo. Patrick Collins approached, his face still pale. Mr. Carter, I just received a message from Edward Hawthorne. He wants me to fully cooperate with your team to begin implementation tonight. Malcolm gave a slight nod, not looking at Patrick, but heading straight for the front desk. We start with the bias incident reporting system. Where's the IT team? 4 technicians appeared. Malcolm pulled a USB-C drive from his leather briefcase and plugged it into the temporary server. This is the install package for Bias Track, the platform we use with 12 other hotel partners. From now on, all reports will be recorded, encrypted, and sent to a third party for independent investigation. He locked eyes with the IT lead. You have 48 hours to integrate it into your internal system. I want a demo running before noon tomorrow. Step 2. Emergency training. Malcolm called Dr. Angela Williams on video. Angela, I need the Intervention Basics module sent immediately to Meridian, Chicago. Tonight, I want 20 key staff to complete it. Angela smiled. Consider it done. They'll get the link and must log in before 11 p.m. Patrick interjected. Mr. Carter, it's late. They might. Malcolm cut him off. Mr. Collins, bias doesn't sleep. And tonight, neither will they. Step 3. Personnel. Malcolm requested a list of regional managers, department heads, and their meeting schedules. All of them will be on Zoom with me at 9 a.m. tomorrow, he said, leaving no room for negotiation. Topic: implementing the 8 requirements, KPIs and deadlines. Patrick hesitated. KPIs for diversity. Malcolm: no. KPIs for accountability. Diversity is the result, not the goal. Step 4. Communications. Malcolm opened his laptop and drafted a press release right at the front desk. Headline reading, Meridian Hotels commits to comprehensive reform after discrimination incident. Partners with Carter Global Media to launch pioneering program. He sent the draft to Edward Hawthorne and Meridian's PR department. This goes live at 8 a.m., not a minute later, he said. Sophia filmed Malcolm as he electronically signed the contract addendum right there in the lobby. She whispered into the camera, You're watching a CEO turn a brand from crisis to reform in real time. 11:05 p.m. As a team of 3 new security staff arrived, Patrick introduced them. They'll replace Grant's team. Malcolm shook each hand, looking them directly in the eye. You will be the new face of this hotel's security. Rule number 1. Every guest starts with trust. Rule number 2. Verify by procedure, not by impression. He handed each of them a printed copy of Section 12.4 of the contract, along with an excerpt from the Illinois Human Rights Act. Read it carefully. From now on, the law and the contract are your boss. In a surprise move, Malcolm instructed the maintenance crew to immediately set up a portable LED board at the VIP entrance displaying, All guests welcome. Identity verification only upon request. Sophia panned her camera, and online viewers instantly flooded the comments. He's turning the very spot they blocked him into a symbol of change. Patrick glanced at the clock. Mr. Carter, it's almost midnight. Malcolm gave a faint smile. Mr. Collins' contracts don't tell time. We still have work on the 15th floor. On the 15th floor, in a small conference room, Malcolm launched an emergency strategy session via Zoom with 3 regional vice presidents of Meridian. On screen, a map of the chain's 312 hotels, color, coded red, no training, yellow, in training, green, completed. Malcolm pointed at the red clusters. In 60 days, I want this map all green. If not, Section 12.4 will be triggered system-wide. One VP objected, Mr. Carter, the budget. Malcolm cut in. Any budget is smaller than a $63 million market cap loss. Patrick sat silently beside him, knowing that number wasn't a threat. It was a market reality. 12:12 a.m. The meeting ended, but Malcolm still didn't leave. He returned to the lobby, where Sophia was still live streaming. She asked, Mr. Carter, why do all this tonight? Malcolm looked straight into the lens. Because by tomorrow morning, this story will be on the front page. And when people read it, they'll see we acted before we were asked. That's the difference between ep and real change. 12:30 a.m. Patrick received confirmation. The diversity committee had been formed, with Dr. Angela Williams officially joining. 12:45 a.m. The press release was finalized and scheduled. 1:10 a.m. 20 key staff completed the Intervention Basics module with an average score of 92 out of 100. Malcolm packed his briefcase, slipped his jacket back on, and shook Patrick's hand. Tonight is just the first step. Mr. Collins, prepare for 90 days of strict oversight, and remember, every eye will be on you. He turned to Sophia. Let's shut it down. Tomorrow will be a long day. As Malcolm stepped out into the cold Chicago night, the wind cut sharp, but the glow from Sophia's phone was still burning. More than 150,000 people had watched the entire night unfold. In less than 6 hours, a discrimination incident had been transformed into a fully signed, launched, and operational plan for systemic reform. A winter morning in Chicago. The massive glass facade of the Grand Meridian reflected the pale sunlight, but inside the atmosphere was brighter and livelier than ever before. Sophia Morales stood right at the VIP entrance, the very spot that had once been the checkpoint of a notorious discrimination incident. She held up her phone, live streaming to over 420,000 followers. You all remember this spot, right? 3 months ago, it was the epicenter of #VIP gatekeeper. Today, it's proof that when change is real, the results are real. Behind her, the portable LED board Malcolm Carter had once ordered still stood, now mounted permanently into the marble wall. All guests welcome. Identity verification upon request only. Beneath it was a touch screen kiosk where guests could submit anonymous feedback directly to Bias Track, the bias incident reporting platform now implemented across the entire chain. Sophia panned her camera to the Meridian Accountability dashboard displayed beside the front desk. The green-lit numbers read, Bias incident reporting rate down 87% compared to the previous quarter. Bias training completion rate at 98.7% across all 312 hotels. Satisfaction score from minority guests up from 6.2 to 8.6. Diversity in management up 340% in just 6 months. Sophia looked into the camera. These aren't PR numbers. This is public data, audited by a third party. Every report must be addressed within 48 hours. Dr. Angela Williams stepped into frame, holding a folder. She was the chair of Meridian's new Diversity Council and a direct advisor to Carter Global Media. We've turned what happened that night into real training material, she said. Not just for frontline employees, but for senior managers and the executive team. Culture change starts at the top and works its way down. James Sullivan, still the hotel's general manager, approached. But his expression today was entirely different from that night. No tension, only confidence mixed with gratitude. He opened a tablet, displaying a KPI chart. Green means on target. Yellow needs improvement. Red is a warning. 3 months ago, we were full of yellow and red. Today, over 90% is green. Sophia asked, "What do you think the biggest change has been?" Sullivan answered without hesitation, "We've learned that following procedure doesn't mean the strictest check. It means the fairest one. Fairness is the standard that protects the brand. The camera shifted to the business center's conference screen. Managers from Meridian hotels in 12 different states were logged into a weekly training session, the Carter Global Media logo in the corner. The instructor explained, "Every training scenario is based on a real incident, including Mr. Carter's case. We break down the cause, the reaction, and the solution." A manager in Dallas shared, "Last week, an employee was about to ask an Asian guest for extra documents. I stepped in right away because I remembered what happened in Chicago." Harvard Business School had added the Meridian model to its MBA program. In archival footage, Malcolm Carter told students, "When you're a CEO, your greatest power isn't the ability to sign contracts. It's the ability to turn values into binding clauses." The Wall Street Journal called it the most valuable case study on the cost of bias. Right at the VIP entrance, 3 new security officers, replacing Grant Lawson and his team, greeted guests with smiles, direct eye contact, and the standard welcome. "Welcome. May I assist you with anything you need?" No ID request without a valid reason. No judgments based on appearance. A black man in a navy suit walked through. The doors opened, not a single glance of suspicion. Sophia turned her camera. That's how you know a system has been repaired, when a moment that once caused harm now passes as quietly as it should. Grant Lawson, the former security guard, had completed his bias training under court order. In the new training video, he said, "I learned you don't need malice to cause harm. Mr. Carter taught me that accountability isn't punishment. It's an opportunity to do right." Laura Bennett, the former events manager, now worked for a non-profit that trains service workers on equitable access. She shared in a podcast, "That night, I thought I was just following procedure. But following procedure while breaking principle is still wrong." Meridian Hotels had not only recovered, but surpassed its market value from before the incident, thanks to the Inclusive Excellence campaign led by Carter Global Media. Quarterly revenue was up 12%, largely driven by returning guests from groups once overlooked. 18 other hotel chains had voluntarily adopted the Washington Protocol, the 8 reform clauses Malcolm had laid out. Other industries, from banking to aviation, had contacted Carter Global Media for consultation. Malcolm Carter returned to the Grand Meridian on a late afternoon. He stood at the same spot where he had been stopped 3 months earlier. Sophia held out a microphone. "How does it feel to be back here?" Malcolm looked around, seeing front desk staff chatting warmly with a family, security holding the door for an elderly couple, guests from many cultures sharing the same space. 3 months ago, this was a place where appearance decided the door. Today, the door decides. Everyone belongs. He smiled with nothing more to add. Grand Meridian, October, exactly 1 year after the incident. The hotel lobby was adorned with golden ribbons, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow, and LED screens throughout, displaying the words Dignity and Leadership Conference, hosted by Meridian Hotels and Carter Global Media. The atmosphere was not that of a mere formal event, but of a historic milestone. Right at the VIP entrance, guests passed through a small exhibition. At the center hung the photo of Malcolm Carter being stopped at the door, but beneath it was the caption, "The moment that sparked change." Next to it, a screen played Sophia Morales' original live stream. Guests wearing headphones could hear the commotion from that night, before the image transitioned to the bright green KPI charts from 3 months later. A delegate from Japan quietly remarked to a colleague, "It's rare for a company to display its worst moment as a lesson." In the main conference hall, over 600 leaders from 17 industries filled every seat. Sophia, now a journalist specializing in corporate accountability, hosted the event. You're about to hear a story most of you already know, but today we will hear it from the man who turned that incident into a model for global change. The stage lights dimmed. Malcolm Carter stepped out. No lapel mic, no notes, just himself, standing in the spotlight with absolute silence surrounding him. Malcolm began with a familiar but weight-laden line. "1 year ago, I walked through these doors with a VIP invitation and was stopped. They didn't know who I was. More importantly, they didn't ask who I was." He recounted the event, not to reignite anger, but to guide the audience step by step toward the value of preparation and strategy. On the screen appeared the 8 clauses, the Washington Protocol, now adopted by more than 200 corporations. He pointed to each clause, illustrating with Meridian's improved data and success stories from other industries. Clauses are not just paperwork. They are the guardrails that keep bias from becoming a financial and ethical disaster. Malcolm's tone shifted. Power is not about shouting louder. Power is building a system that, when you step away, still protects the values you believe in. He looked directly at the front row where CEOs, lawmakers, and non-profit leaders sat. You cannot control every individual action, but you can control the structure that makes those actions harder to commit. Malcolm invited Dr. Angela Williams and Sophia Morales to join him on stage. He presented them with the rights to implement the Washington Protocol free of charge to any non-profit or educational institution that wished to adopt it. The hall erupted in applause, not polite applause, but the sound of agreement and commitment. Malcolm closed with his final words. "Last year, I stood here as the target of an assumption. This year, I stand here as proof that assumptions can be changed with data, with action, and with resolve." He turned toward the VIP entrance, now wide open, where a white staff member was bowing slightly to a black guest with a genuine smile. No papers requested, no probing glance, only a welcome. As Malcolm stepped down, Sophia turned to the live stream camera. "Remember, this story isn't about a CEO or a hotel. It's proof that systemic change is possible if someone dares to demand it." Behind them, the LED screen lit up with the words, "Dignity meets data, the Carter legacy." 1 year ago, Malcolm Carter was stopped right at the VIP entrance. Today, that very spot has become a symbol of fairness and transparency. He did not retaliate with anger, but with data, contractual clauses, and systemic change, forcing an entire industry to take a hard look at itself. If you believe fairness is not negotiable, comment "not acceptable" below. Hit like and subscribe to help spread stories that turn prejudice into reform. Because sometimes the best retaliation is making injustice too expensive to survive.